Hello everyone, this is Isra Yusuf and I'm going to explain for you Unit 9. This is for grade 7, it is an English lesson. So we're going to start with Unit 9 and it is the last of the Mohicans. Actually, this is a historical fiction. We're going to talk about it. The outcomes that are expected for students to have after this lesson is to understand the text, to be able to identify new words, and to put these new words into sentences. This is what students are expected to have after this lesson. Now, open your books, page 220. You have Unit 9, which is the last of the Mohicans, and as I said, it is a historical fiction. So it is a historical fiction, which is that is a history. It talks about history, and it talks about some of fiction. In these slides, you're going to see like words I put in the right. So these are the vocabs and the meanings you have in your text. So write it down on your vocabulary notebooks. Let's start reading. In 1757, a war was raging in North America between Britain and France over who would control the vast expanses of the continent. The name French and Indian War identifies the two groups allied against the British. So actually, it tells you what history does this talk about. So it is a war that was like happening between the North America and Britain and France over who's going to over who's going to control the large areas of water, sky, land of the continent they are in. The name, which is a French and Indian War, identify the two groups allied against the British. So you have the French people and the Indian, they allied together. And actually, we use the word allied in history, in like wars, especially in Second and First War. So this word is used in wars particularly. So there was a war between the French and Indian. They were allied together, which they are relating together. They are going to fight. They fought against Britain. Okay, so fought against Britain for what? For the expanses, which is the large areas of water, lands, and sky of the continent. So this is actually what this story talks about. It talks about a fiction, historical fiction, between like two parts of war. Okay. Now let's move to something I'm going to introduce for you. As I said, this is a historical fiction. So The Last of the Mohicans, actually it is a film. Okay, it was set in 1757 during the French and Indian War against Britain. It was based on a novel, which is The Last of the Mohicans, and its genre, it is a historical fiction. So actually, it is a film that was based on a novel, which was written based on the war, which is was written. Based on the war which happened between the French Indian and Britain against British people. Okay. Now this is paragraph 2 and 3 you have on your page 220. James Fenimore Cooper's novel The Last of the Mohicans was published in 1826. It begins with a threat to Fort William Henry under the command of Colonel Monroe. Monroe's daughters, Cora and Alice, demand to go to him despite what will be a dangerous journey through a forest populated with native tribes allied with the French. So this is the novel, which was written by James Fenimore Cooper. he wrote this novel, and he begins his novel with a threat, which means to tell someone that you cause them harm if they don't do what you are going to say or what you want. So threat. So he begins his novel with a threat to Fort William Henry, under the command of Colonel Monroe, Monroe's daughters, which their names Corey and Elise, demand to go to him. Demand, which means to order, to go to him despite what will be a dangerous journey through a forest populated. What do you mean by populated? So his daughters, they're going to him. They want to reach him, but they have to get a dangerous journey through the forest. They have to get through a forest which is populated, which is particular people live there. Which is native tribes, which is a social group that have people of the same race. They have the same beliefs, costumes, language. They are ruled by a leader. So allied with the French. So he demands. He begins his novel with a threat to the Fort William Henry, so that his daughter is going to get through the forest, which is populated with a tribe which is allied with the French people. So they are going to get through an area which is they consider their enemy, or they are fighting against. Corey and Elise are escorted by Major Duncan Hayward and a native Scot named Magua. In this excerpt, Hayward is introduced to Magua. Actually, his daughters, they are taking escorted. What do you mean escorted? That they are going to be taken, to protect them. They are escorted, they are protecting, but they are taken by the Major Duncan Hayward, and he is protecting him, and by a native Scots, which is named Magua. In this excerpt, in this particular short of piece of book, in this novel, Hayward is introduced to Magua. So Howard introduced to Magua so that they can protect the Fort William Henry's daughters, so that they can protect them and they can get them to the safe place, which is to their father. Okay. Now let's move to the second part, to the paragraph, which is you have other paragraphs. It was an introduction, which is page 220. His eyes fell on the still, upright and rigid form of the Indian runner, although in a state of perfect repose, and apparently discarding with characteristics stoicism the excitement and bustle around him. There was a sullen fierceness mingled with the quiet of the savage that was likely to raise the attention of much more experienced eyes than those which now scanned him in unconcealed amazement. So, actually, his eyes fell on the still, upright, and rigid, which means very strict, difficult to change, form of the Indian runner, although in a state of perfect repose. What do you mean by repose? A state of calm and comfortable rest, and apparently discarding, to ignore something that is not important, with characteristic stoicism, patience, and calmness when bad things happen to you. So he's patient, calm, he's feeling comfortable, and so on. The excitement and bustle around him, bustle to move quickly, and the excitement around him. There was a sullen fierceness, which means sullen, angry, and silence, fierce, which is violent. Okay, mangled, mixed together with the quiet of the savage, which is very violent or cruel, that was likely to arrest the attention of much experienced eyes than those which now scanned him in unconcealed and not hidden amazement. So he begins his novel with this. This is like a part of his novel that it talks about the Indian runner, that he is so comfortable, calm, and that he doesn't care about the bad things that happen around him, and he ignores every bad and every angry and every violent thing, and he's like finding quietness in um in chaos. This is actually how he starts his novel. The native bore both the tomahawk and knife of his tribe, and yet his appearance was not altogether that of a warrior. On the contrary, on the opposite, there was an air of neglect about his person, like that which might have proceeded from great and recent exertion, which he had not yet found leisure to repair. So, the native, which means the origin people, both the tomahawk is actually a light axe used by Native Americans. We're going to see a photo of tomahawk. What do you mean by tomahawk? And knife of his tribe, and yet his appearance was not altogether that of a warrior. His appearance was not like a warrior. So he was like calm, he was like quiet, he was comfortable, and he had his tomahawk and knife. But his appearance was not like a warrior. On the contrary, on the opposite, there was an air of neglect. What do you mean by neglect? Neglect, which means to fail to look after someone or something, probably, about his person. So someone did not take, did not look after him, did not care about him, like that which might have proceeded from great and recent exertion, which is a lot of physical or mental effort, which he had not found leisure to repair, which he has not found time to relax and to enjoy, because he's like working and he's trying to show his best. This is actually what do you mean by these paragraphs. This is a picture of a tomahawk, which is a light axe, which is used by Native Americans, as you can see on your left. And what is on your right is actually the cover of the novel. The cover of the novel you have in actually, as you see, this is a picture of a tomahawk, which is a light axe used by Native Americans. And as you can see on your right, it is the cover of the novel and the cover of the film that which was like which was directed in 1770s. Okay, so this is actually what do you mean by tomahawk, and this is the cover of the novel that we are talking about, The Last of the Mohicans. Now the last paragraph, which is his eye alone, which glistened like a forest star amid lowering clouds, was to be seen in its state of native wildness. For a single instant his searching and yet wary glance met the wandering look of the other, and then changing its direction, partly in cunning and partly in disdain, it remained fixed, as if penetrating the distant air. So his eye, he's describing his eyes, was like shining and look like oily, like they are wet, like they have tears in, like a fairy style, amid when the busy and noisy stuff were happening, events, lowering clouds, was to be seen in its state of native wildness. So he describes here his eyes like a fairy star, okay, and it was to be seen in its state of native wildness. Okay, for a single instant, he's searching and yet wary, which means careful because something might be something dangerous or harmful might happen. Glance met the wandering look of the other, and then changing its direction, partly in cunning, which is a clever and good way deceiving people in order to get what they want. In partly in disdain, which is like a lack of respect that you show for someone or something because you think that they are unimportant. It remained fixed as if penetrating, which means to do something that is morally wrong or illegal, the distant. So this is actually how he is describing his characteristics. Describing his character. He's talking about his characteristics. The guy he's describing. So this is actually what does he mean? He describes his eyes like a glanced velvet star, and he's describing that he's searching for the look of the other, and he's not changing his direction, and particularly in a clever way, and in a way that lacks for respect that you're showing for someone. Now, don't forget that to look at your weekly plans because you have a homework for Sunday is to put the words expands, repose in a meaningful sentences, and you have a homework on Monday which is to put the words stoicism, worry in a meaningful sentence. Don't forget to look at your weekly plans, and the lesson has ended. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to do your homework. Please check your weekly plans, and I'm waiting for your homeworks so that I can check them. Stay safe. This is your teacher, Isra Yusuf.